Are Toyota Tacoma owners too picky? Are we too picky? Do we like to complain about everything? Well, good morning everybody. How are you today? So are us Toyota Tacoma owners too picky? I mean, I see lots of complaints about things, and some of the things I think are a little crazy, I must admit. But I have my own complaints here and there, so I guess I can't really talk. But recently, I got an email, I think it was an email, from a subscriber talking about his tailgate. Now, first of all, let me tell you, he's not being too picky in this case, I don't think. But I wanted to take a look at mine because what he was talking about was the spacing on the back. You know, when you look at my truck, everything looks pretty even, I think. There's nothing that really jumps out and catches the eye, right? Now, if you get a little closer, you're going to notice a few things. Now, before I do that, let me tell you the problem that this guy is having. And it was for alignment on the bumper, I guess. Instead of sitting really like this, his kind of sits a little bit like this. What I'm talking about, he was just looking at the gap here between his bumper cover, or his bumper here, and the tail light. And he has a very noticeable difference from the passenger side to the driver's side, I believe it was, and the gapping. And you can see it with the naked eye. I mean, if you look at the back of the truck, you can tell it's not even. And what I'm talking about, the distance that he has over here, just between here and here, is much greater, I would say, over here. A much bigger gap on this side. So, yeah, that I think is a bit of a problem. Now, keep in mind, there is a tolerance for these things, right? I mean, these trucks are built, well, somewhat by man, or mankind, and machines mostly, but still, there is a tolerance, right? I mean, nothing is ever going to be perfect to the nth degree. So as long as it's within that tolerance, Toyota is going to tell you that it's the way it should be, and they're not going to do anything about it. And I don't know that I have a real problem with that. I understand that there is going to be a tolerance, and that's kind of the way it is, until it gets beyond that tolerance, like this guy's Tacoma. But looking at mine, upon closer inspection, I guess, you know, I looked at areas like my gapping over here, and you can see, and I'll use my fingers, I guess, as gauges, but you can see right here, it just kind of fits right in there. And then we go over here and kind of look at the other side, and it just kind of fits right in there. No big deal, no big gapping problem. Along the tailgate itself, and I'm looking kind of at the edges here and here, and I'll use my pinky for this as well as the naked eye. Let's look at this gap here and compare that over here. Looks pretty much the same to me, no real issues there. The little pinky test up here, the end of my pinky kind of fits in that gapping. And then we go over here and it's pretty much the same, right? So no big issues with mine, everything looks pretty good. Now, where I do notice a difference is when we look down here at the edges. And this is getting picky, I must admit. But if you look at this spacing over here, for instance, right down in here, and compare that over here, it's smaller on this side. So obviously, it's a little bit off when it comes to the distance between the edge of the bumper here. And you can see I can stick my whole finger down in there, as compared to over here. I can't stick my finger hardly in there at all, just the end of it, right? So we are off a little bit there. Fortunately for me, that's an area that's not such a big deal because unless you're looking over the truck and you're being real picky like I am right now, it's not really a big deal. Now, looking at something else, and I actually just noticed this morning, and there is quite a big difference here. Not a big deal because you can't see it unless you're looking. But right here on the edge, where the bumper kind of comes up against the part of the truck here, whatever the technical term is, this spacing right here. You can see my finger there. I can't really get it in, just the tip, my fingernail, whatever, right in that area. But if we go over here, you can see I can stick almost into my first knuckle on this side. So that means that my bumper, where it marries up with the edge of the truck, if you will, is actually skewed. It actually, instead of sitting straight up like so, kind of leans out just a little bit. Not a real huge deal. Again, some of these things are pretty picky. That's certainly nothing that I would ever want to contact or fault the dealer with. I don't think that's a big problem. Now, looking on around the sides, and this you'll see, of course, only when you're on one side, because you can't look at both sides of the truck at the same time, but this will be glaring if there's a problem. And honestly, I haven't looked at this before. And I'm talking about this space right here, right? I mean, you can see I can easily fit my hand in there, the end of my fingers anyway. Not a big deal. Go over here to the other side, and let's take a look. And it is more narrow. I can still fit my fingers in there, but it is a more narrow gap on this side. So obviously, it doesn't match up in comparing the passenger side to the driver's side here. I mean, looking at it this way, it is a pretty big difference. So again, the bumper doesn't sit flush, if you will, with the truck evenly. Kind of leans out on this side just a little bit. Now, as I mentioned, is that really a big deal? No, I don't think so. And I say that because you can't see both sides at the same time. Yeah, you as the owner would know, of course, if you're washing the truck or whatever and you happen to notice that edge because you're sticking your mitt in there. So probably going to be a little more alert, I guess, or aware that gapping is going to be different. But, again, not really a big deal. But do we as Toyota Tacoma owners demand too much? Are we too picky? I think there's a kind of a fine line there. I mean, we do pay a lot of money for these trucks, right? And they should be as spot on as possible. Again, being built by men and having tolerances, men and women, I mean mankind, they're never going to be perfect. It's always going to be off a little bit. And I think, as long as the truck is sound and everything is within tolerance, it's okay. I think that when you really start nitpicking everything, you're never going to be happy. I don't care what brand you own or what truck you buy. They're never going to be perfect. Nothing ever is going to be. So maybe we need to lighten up a little bit as Toyota Tacoma owners. Again, not when it comes to things that are glaringly obvious or things that are important. I mean, I'll give you an example. Let's say that for some reason every third time your truck doesn't start. Well, that's unacceptable. That's one area where it needs to be perfect, and every time you turn that key or push that button, your truck needs to start. That is a bona fide complaint where it's not being picky if things aren't the way they're supposed to be. Anyway, leave a comment down below. Let me know if there's anything about your Tacoma, a picky thing that bothers you, that ultimately really doesn't matter. I'd be curious to know. Also, real quick, if you're interested, check out my other channel. It is RobMotive JT, all about my probably less than perfect Jeep Gladiator. Don't forget to click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. And do me a favor, smash that subscribe button on the way out. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.